The NFL has all sorts of disturbing secrets that they keep from the public to keep a clean public image. But we found some interesting things that the NFL does not want you to know. Let's get started at number 18. When you see the millions of dollars that NFL stars make, it creates the perception that NFL players are overpaid. But in fact, that isn't true. Players endure short careers, high injury risks, and to top it all off, their contracts aren't guaranteed. NFL owners, on the other hand, are absolutely raking in the cash. The NFL's CBA entitles the players to a lower percentage of league revenue than the NBA, MLB, or NHL. NFL players also have the shorter careers on average than athletes from other sports, and the minimum annual salary for NFL players is lower than that of athletes in the other major sports as well. And if that's not enough to make you second guess the integrity of the NFL, you've got to hear about the stunt they tried to pull in 2017. In 2017, the NFL owners flat out lied to its players. Turns out that the owners had mischaracterized around $120 million in ticket revenue, leaving players shortchanged by $50 million in earnings. They were able to do this because of a sneaky loophole allowing the NFL to squirrel away funds for stadium construction. With such short careers and owners shortchanging players, this next secret might not be all that surprising. 2 years after leaving the game, around 78% of former NFL players have experienced bankruptcy or financial stress. This is because the NFL doesn't educate their players on what they should do with their money. Instead, NFL players give away money to friends and family like it's never going to run out. They also party like rock stars and make risky investments that don't always pan out. They add in any divorce payments and child support disputes, and it's not hard to figure out why players are looking for jobs soon after their playing days. Damn, financial stress is one thing, but 78%? Something clearly needs to change. But the players aren't the only ones that aren't getting treated unfairly by the NFL. The refs are being placed in the cold too. The NFL's referee situation is problematic and unlikely to improve. Many referees work part-time alongside other jobs, which doesn't allow them to focus their undivided attention on the game. Fans have been demanding full-time refs for years, but as usual, NFL owners are reluctant to dish out the cash. So, next time a ref blows the game for your favorite team, blame the NFL. And try not to be stingy like NFL owners. Instead, share the love by liking this video and subscribe to the channel too. Otherwise, we're going on strike. In 1987, NFL players took a brave stand demanding crucial rights like better retirements, improved healthcare, fair severance pay, and educational support. The players also wanted the right to free agency, which would give them more control over their careers and contracts. But the NFL owners weren't about to give in if they didn't have to. Instead, while the players were on strike, they signed replacement players, which were known as scab players. The guys might not have been as talented, but they were still pretty darn good and fans continued to watch. And some players, such as Joe Montana, who was amongst the highest paid in the league, gave up early. The fact was that the stars were making more than the depth players and they weren't as eager to fight for higher contracts. When these stars gave up on the strike, it really weakened the players' stance. Eventually, the remaining players gave up the fight and the owners didn't have to budge. The NFL doesn't want you to know that they have treated their employees like crap for decades. And one of the worst aspects of being an NFL player is dealing with all the health uncertainties. The NFL's healthcare system is a mess. Players struggle through a complicated process and often don't get enough financial support. Even though there are many programs, they often don't cover medical bills, leaving players to rely on Medicaid or Obamacare. Some players go to California for better insurance laws. But the NFL fights against players using California, and they even take players to court over compensation cases. Meanwhile, players turn to marijuana for help, but the NFL is strict about its use and prohibits players that use it from playing. However, they are liberal with painkillers, which are considered highly addicting and can be expensive. The NFL's priorities are messed up by focusing on money over players' health. And up next is just another sad example that proves it. Former NFL players have spoken out about being given powerful prescription drugs by team doctors during their careers to manage pain. As we know, the NFL couldn't give a damn about the health of their players, so doctors are told to do whatever it takes to get the players feeling good enough to play even when they are suffering from severe injuries. Over 1,800 ex-players sued the NFL because they have had to deal with long-term damage from opioids and anti-inflammatory drugs that team doctors gave them. A lawsuit claimed drugs were distributed as if they were candy. But the judge dismissed the case even though teams broke drug laws. This was because the players couldn't prove that they were forced to take the meds. Pain is only one of the grueling side effects that comes with a career as an NFL player. But what's even worse is the brain damage players get from playing in the league. The NFL has faced serious issues with concussions and brain trauma. Dr. Bennett Omalu's research on players' brains revealed CTE and its link to severe brain damage. The league tried to downplay this, but a settlement with players forced them to pay around $1 billion over 6 decades to those with brain injuries. Experts predict that about a third of retired NFL players could develop brain diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia, or ALS. Concussion diagnoses are rising, adding to the existing concerns about players' health and safety in the long term. We are seeing a trend here. The NFL only cares about making money, not its people. They'll even let some of the worst people you could imagine compete as long as the public doesn't catch on to the NFL's secrets. The NFL often applies rules unevenly, allowing star players to escape consequences until major incidents occur. For instance, Greg Hardy faced domestic violence and drug charges, yet the league held on to him. NFL players have been caught doing all sorts of crimes, including cases of drunk driving, assault, and even illegal possession of an alligator. But unless there is pressure from the public to discipline these criminals, the NFL doesn't and would rather see them on the field playing. One example was the shocking case of Aaron Hernandez. His alarming behavior, drug tests, and violence history were known to the Patriots, yet they continued to utilize him rather than addressing the issue. Eventually, he was found guilty of murder, and the organization acted like they are in complete shock. Had the league intervened earlier, lives could have potentially been saved. But lives? Nah, that's on the bottom of the NFL's priority list. And you got to hear how horribly they treat the cheerleaders. Hide your daughters from this organization. Cheerleaders have been a long-standing part of NFL football. Fans love them. However, the reality behind the scenes has been troubling. Some cheerleaders' alleged mistreatment, such as being forced to pose topless, earning less than minimum wage, and experiencing body shaming. The controversy also extended to former coach John Gruden, whose leaked emails contain misogynistic and explicit content involving cheerleaders. Gruden's resignation followed the release of these emails, which opened the public's eyes about how the NFL really treats their cheerleaders. Makes you sick to your stomach, doesn't it? But John Gruden was far from the only jerk in the NFL. In 2020, 15 former female employees of the Washington football team revealed they had experienced sexual harassment and verbal abuse while working for the team. The incidents occurred between 2006 and 2019, mainly during owner Daniel Snyder's tenure. Despite the allegations, top executives reportedly ignored complaints. Team owner Snyder denied many claims, which led to an internal investigation that later came under NFL supervision. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell fined the team a record $10 million and ordered Snyder to stay away from facilities for months. However, the investigation results were not made public, and Snyder allegedly attempted to influence the process. Eventually, once his public perception was bad enough, Snyder decided to sell his team, in turn pocketing $6 billion. Some punishment, right? But Snyder wasn't the only filthy owner that walked away with billions of dollars. Jerry Richardson used to be the owner of the Carolina Panthers. However, he was investigated by the NFL for sexual and racial workplace misconduct after plenty of complaints. Eventually, Richardson sold the team for $2 billion. Similarly, Robert Kraft, owner of the New England Patriots, faced legal trouble after being arrested in a prostitution ring. The charges were dropped due to questionable evidence collection methods, and the NFL has done their very best to keep the whole thing under wraps. These owners aren't only doing dirty deeds behind the scenes, they also do some shady business practices on the financial side of things. The NFL, worth billions, operated as a non-profit until 2015 in order to avoid paying taxes. Eventually, though, the public started questioning the legitimacy of their business practices. Roger Goodell's hefty salary raised eyebrows for a non-profit. So, to maintain secrecy around Goodell's salary and avoid scrutiny, the NFL gave up its non-profit status. This change ensured that the league's office would no longer be under non-profit rules, so moving forward they could hide financial details about the league. And the NFL wants you to think that they are a bunch of heroes that support charitable causes, but after some further investigation, we realize that isn't the case either. Many players start their own nonprofit organizations to help various causes. So, the NFL made an award called the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year, given to players for both their on-field excellence and their community service efforts. However, an investigation found that some of these charities struggle because players often lack proper knowledge about running nonprofits. Some charities end up spending a lot of their funds on expenses rather than actual charitable activities. But it's not just the players' initiatives that fail to raise money for deserving charities. Every October, the NFL promotes breast cancer awareness with pink merchandise, but investigations reveal that only 11% of funds raised actually went to charity. Meanwhile, the rest of the donations go towards covering the production costs, and a small portion go directly into the NFL owners' pockets. This practice, known as pink washing, has drawn criticism from breast cancer groups. Now that the public is catching on to their tricks, the NFL is planning to replace the Pink October campaign with a new drive. It's all about image and perception when it comes to the NFL. So is it that surprising that they figure out a sneaky way to build crazy stadiums to host their games? The NFL often uses taxpayer money to build stadiums worth billions of dollars. Cities issue special bonds meant for public projects like schools, but the NFL takes advantage of this to fund their stadiums. Taxpayers then repay these bonds over time through taxes on things like hotels. This benefits the NFL and team owners, but they don't actually promote economic growth to the cities. That means that even if you're not a football fan, you could still be indirectly funding these massive stadiums. And with the money they save on stadiums, they pay players to do some crazy things. In the 2009 NFL season, the New Orleans Saints were Super Bowl champions, but a disturbing practice unfolded behind the scenes. The team operated a bounty system from 2009 to 2011 where players were paid bonuses for hard hits and injuring opponents. An NFL investigation revealed that over 20 players participated with head coach Sean Payton aware of it. Payton received a year-long suspension without pay, and the team was fined $500,000, losing draft picks. Another incident involved former Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker James Harrison, who claimed he received money for an illegal hit in 2010, but the Steelers denied the claim. The NFL is absolutely vicious, but that's because the players are jacked up on all sorts of crazy drugs. The NFL has been dealing with the use of performance-enhancing drugs for decades. Toradol was popular in the NFL during the early 2000s. Apparently, the drug was referred to as T-Train, and it was so commonly used that the mentality was that it didn't even give you an edge, it just allowed you to keep up with the pack. HGH became a significant issue as well, with reports suggesting that a substantial number of NFL players used it as testing procedures were perceived as inadequate. Even some of the most beloved players in the game, including Peyton Manning, have been accused of using HGH throughout his career. And if his massive forehead is any indication, there might be some truth to the allegations. So there you have it. Those were the things that the NFL does not want you to know. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to our channel. Also, while you're at it, feel free to click on the videos currently up on your screen to watch more DropKick content.